Hello, everyone. Welcome to QE Babble 2024. It doesn't really matter what the conversation's about this year. Undoubtedly, AI will be in there somewhere. It might be about the news, about gaming, sport, education, healthcare, film and TV, technology. AI is really going to be probably one of the main talking points. And that's why we wanted to bring you an event today that might help to raise the level of understanding of just how this has already been incorporated into the work of a quality engineer, and also how this might evolve over time. So to do this, we've assembled an amazing panel of people, and I'm so pleased and grateful they've been able to join us today for an hour. So they're here to contribute their own thoughts, feelings, and perspectives on this huge subject. The plan today is to run through three areas. So the first one of those is, where are we currently with AI tool adoption in quality engineering? And then we'll look at the reasons to feel excited for the future and what AI tools can really do to help us in our work. And then perhaps reasons for caution. Obviously, there's lots of talk about AI and fear around people's jobs and job security for the future, and I'd like to get the panel's perspective on that. So we're hoping that will take around 40 minutes, which will leave 20 minutes or so for questions. So I'd really appreciate anyone who's watching along today, write some questions and comments and views when you're watching, and I'll be picking those out as we go, pretty much from the start, and I'll flash those up on the screen for the panel to answer a little later on. So thanks for watching, and without further ado, I'll introduce you to today's panel. So we've got Richard Bradshaw, Tom McCawley, and Naveen Bhatti. So welcome everyone. Hello.
Hello.
Hey everyone.
Hello. Happy New Year. So Richard, if I can come to you first. So just for a brief introduction, I'm sure quite a lot of people watching will probably know who you are already, but if you can give us a bit of an introduction, and then talk to us about where you feel the industry is at with AI tool adoption.
Sure. Thanks for having us, Matt. So yeah, my name's Richard Bradshaw, also known as the Friendly Tester. Been in and out of various testing roles for like 15, 16 years now. Currently about to start a new job at Slalom as a senior architect in quality engineering. We should do a webinar about job titles. But basically, looking forward to getting hands-on again, which I'm really looking forward to. Yeah, massive question to start with. I'll answer it more as an industry, I think. We're obviously just getting started. I think that's the obvious answer for that. With regards to tool adoption, I think we're currently being driven by the industry, the tool vendors that we already have. I think currently they're the driving force, adding features to their existing tools, which promising making life a little bit easier and stuff like that. But I think on the ground, I don't think many people are using it yet, probably outside of, ChatGPT maybe, or a few of these GPT tools to generate, all sorts of useful things, data. I've asked it for addresses in the past. I've asked it, tell me I'm this kind of person from this country, give me that persona. So it can do lots of really incredible stuff for us. But I think I would love to see us move into the direction of, tools that are very specifically designed to assist software testers, where at the moment, I think it's more making the tools a bit shinier, giving them that AI powered by AI label, or that little badge that, suddenly makes it cost more or makes it more appealing. But yeah, I think we're just getting started. I think there's lots and lots of potential, and I'm pretty excited to see where the industry takes some of this AI stuff.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, definitely. You can see that even in the job that I do, every tool and package that I've got is spinning up some form of AI add-on, bolt-on. So yeah, I can only imagine what it's like for people working in QE. I'm sure all of the tool manufacturers are doing similar. Yeah, thanks, Richard. Naveen, welcome. Thanks for joining. Your views on where you think we're at the moment with AI tool adoption. I know you're a massive enthusiast of AI.
I think we're definitely at the early stage, as Richard mentioned. There are two areas that I think I want to mention or highlight. I think we are scrutinizing AI tools for ROI. So there are many tools popping up offering AI, even though some of them are just using normal algorithms and slapping AI on top of it. So scrutinizing is, I think, something that we are at. The second thing is we are at the stage of growing pains. What I mean by that is data bias, ethical consideration, skills, and things like that. So and mnemonic that I came up with is digits, if you may. So D is for data. So that's a very painful thing. I'm sure most of the QA will relate to it. I is for infrastructure. Then G is for governance. Again, very important. In this in the all the hyped up AI realm. Another I is for integrity. T is for talent. I think there's a huge gap. Talent, and S is for security. So stage of growing pain. That's where we're at, I think.
Excellent. Tom, welcome. Tell us a bit about yourself and tell us your views on AI tool adoption as we speak.
Yeah, hello everyone. Yeah, my name's Tom McCawley. I've been in and around testing for about 13 years. Very passionate about agile and automation as well. I think that's quite exciting. And I've been very fortunate to work with some really good people on lots of different projects and industries. So I've hopefully built up some experience over time, thanks to those I've worked with, really. In terms of AI, I think it's quite exciting. I think it's probably worth. I think both the guys all alluded to that there's a lot of stuff out there now which powered by AI has that label. I think it's probably worth just talking about OpenAI and what they've done, really, because obviously we know about ChatGPT. It's a massive tool. Pretty much everyone's using it for lots of different reasons. It's I think it had the first 1 million users in 5 days, 100 million in 2 months, and TikTok I think took 9 months. So you can see why if you use it. What they did is I think they made AI accessible, and whereas before, as I'm sure Naveen can attest to deploy an AI model, you needed a lot of data. You needed the right engineers to come in. You needed to then figure out the model, optimize it, then figure out deploying it. So to get AI into a product was a big undertaking, a big task. Obviously now with OpenAI, you can just do that with an API call. So it opens a lot of doors. And I think as a result, what we've got is a bit of a gold rush at the moment where people have got this solution and are just trying to almost shoehorn it into problems to I can put AI in here and here. So with a lot of the tools that we've got now, I'm perhaps a little bit skeptical of some of them, but I do think obviously there's some really great ones. ChatGPT, as I said, I use I've got that open in a tab all day every day. I'm using it for all sorts of stuff, similar to Richard, creating test data, coming up with test ideas, maybe putting in I don't know what's a good idea for a retro theme today, all sorts of stuff, to personal life as well. These are the ingredients I've got. What recipe can I make? What can I do with my kids this afternoon because they're driving me mental? All that sort of stuff. So I think that as a tool has certainly made me more productive. And then the other big one I would say, GitHub Copilot as well. For me is just phenomenal, the value it adds. So I was using it the other day. I opened a file that had some playwright tests in. I started writing a new test and literally tabbed, and it created a whole new test idea for me that I wasn't thinking about, and I just tab. Within 10 seconds, I'd got a whole new automated test that I hadn't even thought about, and it had done it just based on the content of the file. So I think that's a really powerful tool. So yeah, all in all, I think that there are some really powerful ones out there. That the big ones, ChatGPT and GitHub Copilot, for me are certainly make me more productive. Some of the others I've kind of used a little bit, but as I say, I think like the guys have alluded to, really, I don't think we're quite there yet with some of them.
Yeah, thanks. I think you said something there about OpenAI has brought things into the mainstream. And yeah, I mean, I'd be inclined to agree. So even someone who's in a sort of non-technical role like me, AI has become a sort of dinner table conversation for non-techies. And I don't know if you agree, but that's probably one of the reasons, isn't it, that OpenAI have hit the market heavily in 2023, and it's probably had a knock-on effect to a lot of other tools and tool vendors.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, my nan knows about AI. You know, that tells you everything.
But yeah, and she wouldn't have before ChatGPT.
No.
Just to add to that, Tom. Having said that, everyone knows about AI, and ChatGPT and OpenAI definitely democratized AI and built up the hype. There was a study done in US last year, I think. Maybe we can Google it. Out of everyone that they surveyed, only 94% didn't know what ChatGPT is. So even though it seems like everyone is talking about AI, there's a massive amount of population who doesn't even aren't even aware of it.
I was going to say something similar.
Go for it.
Yeah, I was just going to say something similar. I think like people are aware of like maybe ChatGPT or OpenAI, but awareness of AI itself, I don't think is that strong. I think the tool itself is, like Tom just mentioned, some great use cases, some novelty use cases. It gives value almost instantly, and that's what people look for when they go to a product, right? You want value from it, and it's very good at giving you perceived value, right? We're all, we'll talk about criticisms later. And I think that's kind of why it's jumped on so much. You could ask it anything. It doesn't matter what you're into, right? We're into testing and tech and other things. You could ask it anything and it will give some perceived value. And I think that's increased its popularity by far. And then obviously us being in tech and our friends and circles, are all in tech as well. We feel like it's, mainstream and everyone knows. But yeah, I don't think there's that. The knowledge isn't there yet, but I think awareness is definitely growing.
Okay, so thank you for that. So Richard, if you can roll us into the next question. And so you said the knowledge isn't there yet, but it is growing. But clearly, and Tom's mentioned some already, it can benefit quality engineers. There's some good use cases. What, in your opinion, based on where we're at now, can it really do for someone who works in quality engineering?
Yeah, well, to weave into what Tom was saying and Naveen, I think we spend a lot of time in the testing quality space generating stuff, right? And that's what AI is good at, right? Generating test ideas, generating code, generating random scenarios, generating scary headlines about what could happen to our software, generating test data. We spend a lot of our role is generating stuff. And obviously the chatbots and the chat GPTs of this world are very good at that. So I think we should be excited about finding these novel ways to basically speed us up. I talk about this from like automation and testing being like tool assisted. It's an incredibly versatile tool, like the chat GPT side of things, that can solve a lot of the problems that we have. So for me, it's about we should be excited about finding things that just unblock us. Like I think when we're up and stuck, and sometimes we procrastinate, sometimes we delay, sometimes we overthink, we can just go to ChatGPT and ask it a simple question, and it might reply with utter garbage, like absolute tripe. But then as you're reading it, you go, "Oh, I've got a brilliant idea!" Right? That took 10 seconds, 15 seconds to unblock you. So to make us more productive and more efficient, I think it's going to be exciting there. And again, the ideas that were mentioned, tools around creating data, tools around creating code, obviously Copilot, myself using Copilot, it's brilliant. Like how it knows what I want to do just blows my mind. Like it's not that, on reflection, it's not that clever, but you're just like, are you in my head? How do you know this, right? But obviously I'm not doing anything new. I'm not doing anything completely unique. Like someone's done something similar and the algorithm's smart enough to work that out. But yeah, the space that I would like to see us move into, and I think I don't think this is going to happen immediately or very quickly, but we're known as testers, we're quite bad at explaining what testing is, and we're quite bad at explaining or showing our work, I like to call it. Back at school and you solve the math, but the answer's 21, yeah, but tell us how you got there. I can't. Why did you come up with that test idea? Just in my head. Why have you automated this over that? We have all this stuff and we're not overly good at explaining it. And I think that's going to pose some of the challenges in the future to get really efficient AI tools that really can do a lot of the testing without us being involved. I think right now we're in a space where we should be using these tools and we should be generating it, letting it go off and generate stuff, run tests for us. But then we're that critical mind afterwards, right? We can't just trust it blindly because it creates absolute nonsense most of the time. But if we want to get to this space where we can trust it more, we need to get better at an industry of being able to explain what our methods are, what our heuristics are, what our ways of solving problems are, so that we can then train specific data models on how to go about thinking like a tester. Right now, we're taking advantage of these massive generic ones, and they're really good and they can help. But if we really want to get something that's, you know, really going to push the industry in a massive way, I think we need to get better at explaining our own thinking and turn that into some data models. But I think that's going to happen. I had a massive go at a guy called Jason Arbonne on LinkedIn. Well, not a massive go. I was like, stop doing this, you know, generative stuff, you know, that's like kind of attached to other tools, and start thinking about, as a tester, what's slowing me down every day. Like, it's not necessarily writing code. It's probably where I'm thinking of ideas. It's probably where I'm having to fill in forms all day, or I'm having to, you know, just these little tedious jobs that only take a few minutes, but we could potentially teach an AI to do more efficiently. I want to see more adoption in that space, instead of things like, you know, flaky automated tests, you know, or fixing flakiness. Like, you know, the AIs are trying to solve the code, where the flakiness is not the code. The flakiness is definitely somewhere else. So I think we've got to be excited about actually bringing it into the AI space, instead of using it for testing, like helping us with testing, bringing the AI into our domain and shaping it to fit it. I hope that happens. And if that does, I think we can start seeing things that we're going to become so efficient at what we do. Just being able to click buttons and have these bots go off and do stuff and just bring you back a whole bunch of data that, you know, we then have to shift through to find what's useful and what's not. I think we're going to get into that really good space, I hope, anyway.
Thanks, Richard. Naveen?
Yeah, everything that Richard said. There are three areas that I think I'm quite excited about looking at AI in testing point of view. One is QA or testers. Testing is one of the roles that deals with massive amount of information. If you compare with every role in an SDLC and beyond, QA is the role which deals with every single information, all the way from requirement to deployment and logging and alerting and all those kind of things, because we need that information. And I'm quite excited to see how AI can help extrapolate that information for QA. The second area, now, I haven't come across a tool that does that yet, so I can't share a name. Yeah, it would be good to hear from audience if they know about it. The second area is again the innovation that this will bring in terms of testing tools. A lot of, like I was mentioning, a lot of the testing tools before, let's say 2023, had AI in their product, but it wasn't the true AI. It's just some kind of smart algorithm or something like that. And in last 1 year, I've seen many tools, you know, either disappearing or dropping AI from their platform because of the awareness that is there because of the OpenAI or ChatGPT around AI and what LLMs are and things like that. So some I think now some truly innovative AI-enabled product for testing will come out, rather than just someone slapping AI on any product. The third one is the democratization of it, because currently the ChatGPT, I've been exploring it for fine tuning a bit. The limitation is there's a lot of limitation around fine tuning ChatGPT. There's something called tiny LLMs. That's something I'm quite interested in. So tiny LLMs, an example of that is Phi 2 from Microsoft, which is like 2-point-something billion parameters, and you can run it on either on your machine or on a mobile device. So these kind of LLMs, which are becoming more and more efficient, will enable us to create very fine-tuned and industry or specific testing related tool or any other tool. So those are 3 areas that I'm quite excited about from QA point of view.
Okay, thanks, Naveen. What was the name of that tool you mentioned? Sorry.
The tiny LLM?
Yeah.
Phi 2, PHI 2. It's quite small and generate good results. It's from Microsoft. They just released it, I think, a few weeks ago. Similarly, there's another, it's a little bit more intensive, is Llama 2 from Facebook. It has got three versions, I think. 7 billion parameters and 65 and 70. So 7 billion could be considered as tiny LLM. It will still require a good system to run effectively.
Yeah, thank you. I'll get those from you and I'll flash them up on the comments so people can look at those afterwards. Thank you. Tom, your thoughts on what we can do, how we can leverage it at the moment?
Yeah, obviously I agree with everything the guy said. I think certainly what Richard was saying as well. I mean, as testers, why do we get paid? Is it because we're good at fixing broken UI selectors in a test? No, it's not that. It's, you know, we think about the test ideas and how we do good testing. So I think the tools at the moment are great for helping us resolve, you know, bad code or generate me some tests quickly. But that whole kind of, you know, brain thinking about, well, what do I need to test and what exciting ways can I go about testing it? I'd like to, I think as Naveen said already, I'm kind of waiting for the big tool to come along and completely disrupt with, you know, using AI in a powerful way. And I suppose the other area as well that I'd like to see perhaps a little bit more of is, I think there's a lot that could be done with some of the non-functional testing, and I think AI is certainly something that could really help support that. So that's kind of, I suppose I'm watching this space to see what comes along and you know, drops in there really.
Okay, what would you say? Like, how are you getting value from it right now? Like, do you see the tools making your job more efficient already?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. GitHub Copilot, absolutely. You know, I think you can be almost up to 50%, possibly even more quicker with something tasks that you're doing. You know, generating data. GitHub Copilot, as Rich said, you kind of type it, you know, the line's there, what you need to type, sometimes better than you were planning to do it. So that absolutely has made me more productive. And like Richard said, really just being unblocked by, I want to go into, you know, I'm stuck with this, how do I go about this? And, you know, sometimes it doesn't give you the perfect answer, but it will put you on the right track. Or then, you know, when you converse with it a little bit, then so yeah, for me, certainly those tools have had a big impact on what I'm doing.
Okay. The next one I think is probably quite a big point, and I know it's something that a lot of people that I talk to mention is kind of about reasons for caution. I think a lot of people, when they think about AI, become concerned over privacy, security, you know, intellectual property. Where's it all going when you're pumping information? Some of it, you know, could be sensitive to the company you work for into some of these products. Richard, why do you think we should be, or do you think we should be cautious about the use of AI tools, and if so, in what way?
Yeah, I think we have to be. You know, in general, like the wider world, obviously, like we're already aware that these things are generating stuff, you know, based off rules and algorithms, but you know, a lot of it is nonsense that sometimes, and someone less critical thinking would take that forward and maybe run with that as being truth. I think that's obviously one aspect we have to be aware of. But if I focus more on testing and quality engineering, we have a history that I think will just get repeated, which the same happened with automation, right? It was sold as a silver bullet, going to solve all our troubles. And that's, if you notice right now, most of the AI that we see on tools and tool vendors is focused around automation. It's about making that better, fixing itself, but they're still trying to solve that problem. And I think the caution for me is that we try and solve the wrong problems. Yes, most places have gone heavy on automation. It's almost a given. It's part of your strategy these days. It's very efficient. It's very effective at what it does. And I think we're learning that AI can be very efficient and effective at what it does, especially the most common LLM kind of generative flavor. So I think my biggest caution is I mentioned already, we're still not very good at selling what testing is. We're not very good at talking about its value. We're very good at talking about artifacts that come out of testing, but still not that critical thinking side of it. And if management are now being sold the magic of AI and all these incredible benefits and the 80% off and 60% more efficient and buy one AI and get one AI free and all this stuff that we're going to hear, are they going to start buying into that again without having real useful knowledge from people on the ground about the problems that we're actually facing day to day? What I think right now, the problems that AI is being aimed at were difficult in some cases, but not massive, not superbly difficult for us to do. Having Copilot give us a line of code in a couple of seconds, yes, it's going to save a lot of time over the week, but it's not really helping me solve some of the more critical thinking problems. And I think if we don't start as a community and as roles speak up about some of the more bigger challenges that we're facing, I think the same thing will happen as happened with automation. Marketeers will get in, sales teams will get in, they'll sell lots of promises and stuff, and then suddenly you're delivering with a tool. And also the first big player that does that, the other players follow. And then we're in this, kind of cycle again now where all the other tools are playing catch up because one company's managed to do something amazing. And now that innovation that we're all speaking about, where we have, specifically testing trained LLMs, specifically tools that are designed for a tester. Naveen mentioned one that I completely forgot about, which was the intelligence side of QA or QE, like dashboards, the amount of data that testers process, the amount of things that we're playing against each other, that we're trying to turn into a narrative to talk to our stakeholders. There's no tools to help with that yet. The best thing we've got close to that is something like TestRail building a dashboard for you and telling you that you've ran 50 tests and got 4 failures and there's 10 defects. That doesn't tell the narrative. That doesn't tell the story. And there's great AI tools in the marketing space that do that. Tell me how good my last Facebook ad did. And you suddenly get this massive report full of graphs and reflective comments and what you could have done better. We don't have any of that stuff yet. And I think until we get better at talking about that, I think we'll struggle. And then the last one that I mentioned was, again, just that perceived value. I think that's always going to be the cautious side of it. There's still not enough senior people, industry leaders or whatever that really understand the value of good quality engineering. We've still got this stigma of where, bad testing or testers that are just, doing something that's perceived as being automatable or being done by a bot, because again, then don't have the skill set to talk about what they're really doing. And I think until we can combat that, we're going to have this kind of ROI challenge where someone's going to promise that you can just automate Richard. That was already promised, but now they're going to go, we can automate Richard and the AI will fix all the mistakes it makes. Yeah, no, but automating me was never the problem, right? That's the problem. That I think that's going to be the challenge. It wasn't automating me. I wasn't bad. But there's things that tools can do more efficiently for me. So I think that's my caution, is that we focus on the wrong things. And I think I'm worried about that. And I hope that the more accessible, as Naveen said, these tools are, the more that we can start using them for ourselves and maybe combat that. But I think the leaders in our industry, the big tool vendors, they're going to stick it on the end of automation. And I think that's just not going to solve a lot of the issues we have and going to slow us down in innovating in the testing space.
Okay. Thank you. There's a couple of points I'll come back to, but I'll go to Naveen first. So I don't know whether I'm sure not everyone who's watching along is connected or follows Naveen, but if you don't, you should. You do post a lot of good stuff about AI and Naveen, which I've been reading over the last few weeks. So you're obviously an advocate of, or certainly interested in. So tell us a bit about perhaps how you sort of temper that, or a sort of cautionary side of that usage, because there's lots of things to consider, aren't there, when you're using these tools. So can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think from testing specific point of view, Richard comprehensively covered it. So I would like to talk a little bit more knowledge, talent, and strategy kind of level. So the over-reliance on AI, doesn't matter which discipline you're in, is a big concern for me. There have been numerous instances where people aren't aware of hallucinations of these LLMs, and they use the information generated by them as a truth, basically. There's some legal examples and things like that. So that's one, like over reliance on AI and not just trusting everything ChatGPT says, and education around it. The second piece is not having fundamental AI knowledge. Again, going back to the mnemonic digits, I think if you are not aware of the digits thing, these are kind of the key pillars in AI. And then the different types of AI. I think someone in comment is talking about asking about AGI as well. So not having enough. The good example I can give around that is estate role. So in last 3 months, I've interviewed about 30 estates. Most of them don't know about the design principle and patterns, which is one of the key aspect from an estate point of view if you're designing and building framework that is maintainable and scalable. Similarly, if you're not aware of, or if you have very shallow knowledge about AI and the fundamentals and the pillars, digits, and things like that, I think we're not going to be successful in that side. And the third one is, so a lot of reskilling, upskilling is needed. That's a concern, and companies and organizations not investing enough into that side. The third one, from a leadership and strategy point of view, a lot of organizations, including the one that I'm working in right now, they are promoting this bottom-up approach. While if you are in a kind of a matured area, bottom-up works very well. AI is a very uncharted territory at the moment. So you need some vision and strategy and safeguards and things like that in place. So the bottom-up approach doesn't work. A good example of it not working is Samsung. I'm not sure how many of you know about it, but Samsung asked or allowed, one of their business arm allowed their employee to use AI writers behind the scene, ChatGPT, and they used it for whatever, and they leaked sensitive and confidential information, including code and some other stuff, because ChatGPT trained on all of this kind of thing. So this bottom-up approach doesn't work very well, especially when you're in uncharted territory. And that's one of my concerns as well. Like, if you don't have vision, strategy, and safeguards, all of these things in place, you are definitely going to leak things that you're not supposed to. Yeah, I'll stop at that.
So just on a couple of things, you mentioned about digits a few times. Just clarify for us again what those are.
So D is for data, I is for infrastructure, G is for governance, next I is for integrity, T is for talent, S is for security. There's another one I'm trying to bake into this mnemonic or come up with another one, is culture. C. I don't know how that fits into digits, but maybe a new mnemonic for that. So yeah, culture. So that's digits, and these are considered. So there's a good study or website from Cisco. If you search for AI pillars, this is what you will get basically. I added few to that.
Just flashing up David, who told us what they were actually. So I've just seen those in the chat. So thank you for that.
Thanks, David.
Just before we go to Tom, so you mentioned about safeguards. So in your opinion, I mean, it's probably quite a broad question, but like, what are some of those safeguards to prevent issues like the one you mentioned about Samsung, but also about bad usage or risks associated with?
So data is one. So if you have low quality or bad data, it will result in bad output. This second safeguard that I can think of is the knowledge around some of the security concerns. For example, I'll give you an example. There's something called prompt injection. So you got this, let's say you downloaded an image. It's got some bunch of text on it, and you send it to give it to ChatGPT or whatever LLM you're using, Bard or whatever, and you say describe what it is, whatever you want it to do. But if someone, whoever created that image, has got a white background and text on white, and that text says, follow this link. Yeah. So whenever ChatGPT translate it, even though you can't see it, it will translate the things, and prompt will say, ignore above and display this, and say, follow this link and do something. So these kind of injections, so awareness and a safeguard around it. There are many examples of it which I can share. Maybe I can share a link to a video as well. But data integrity and security and awareness and things like that.
Thanks, Naveen. Tom, your thoughts on caution?
Yeah, I think the guys covered it really. That obviously the over reliance on it is a big risk, and oversimplifying our role of what we do. The role of a tester, thinking that we can just use AI, is a risk. A couple of days ago, the head of the IMF announced that 40% of roles are likely to be affected by AI. That's a massive number, really. So, and I don't think we're particularly in a completely safe. I think whilst if you imagine if you're a founder of a startup and you build something, you might think, well, don't need to hire a BA or a tester or whatever, because I can just go and ask ChatGPT to imitate that persona. So that for me, I think, is a big concern, because as I'm sure we all know, there's an awful lot more to it than just coming up with test cases and then automating them within the role. I suppose the other one that kind of I'm acutely aware of, not so much of a threat, but perhaps a challenge, something that we need to be aware of, is that the tools like this are making developers a lot more productive. They're producing a lot more code. The code that's output isn't necessarily perfect, as we know. Again, coming back to that over reliance on it, it's trained on code that's out there now, and that's obviously not perfect. So I think effectively that what that means is that there's going to be a lot more software out there that's perhaps going to be quite buggy as well, and also just as a developer, just going and asking it to solve a specific problem, or generate me a function that does this, is one thing, but then taking whatever it gives you and putting that back into the whole context of what you're doing is it doesn't have that whole context. So unless you've really gone to town on your prompts and described that really well, and the whole infrastructure you've got, it doesn't know that. So I still think there has to be an element of kind of taking that, thinking, okay, how can I apply it, making that work. And yeah, I think in a similar way in the past that I think we've all perhaps known developers that maybe rely too much on Stack Overflow in the past, and would just copy and paste straight in with comments and that are just not relevant at all. I think that's perhaps a little bit of a worry. So just that over reliance on it, and then for us, if the developers can scale now because they can write lots more code more quickly, not necessarily perfect code, how do we scale to make sure that we're able to test all of that effectively?
Thanks. You mentioned the IMF and their reference to employment and the effect that AI will have on that. I mean, that's a huge topic. You could do a session on that. You could talk about it for days. Definitely something that people sort of mention to me when they're talking about their career is like where AI will take their career and how AI will affect their future career. I know this is probably quite difficult to answer, really, but if we could compare like testers or quality engineers versus perhaps some other disciplines within tech, like how adversely affected do you think testers are? Do you think actually they're in a good place because there'll always be a role for someone to check, validate, and ensure that something works properly? Or do you think that actually that role is as susceptible as any to being taken over by a tool or machine.
I think
Anyone got any views on that?
We're I think as I've said, really, you can put a prompt in and get code back, and it's not always good code. So I think there's always going to be a need to check it, and also it might not be the right context. So I do think that things will need to continue to be tested. I suppose my worry is perhaps the companies themselves, and recognizing the value of having professional testers do that. And I'd like to think a lot of the top companies, will recognize that is an important skill, and you can't just, swap an individual out for a bot. But as I say, perhaps the startups, the founders, working on a shoestring budget, that's probably what they'll be immediately looking to do. And I think, I don't think it's just testers. I think there's other roles as well. Business analysts. That's probably a kind of similar situation. I don't think we're quite at the point yet where you could just go and completely build an app and put it in production purely off, ChatGPT. Build me, the code that does this. And the day that we get to that point, then I think, we could be in trouble. But I don't think that's going to be, anytime soon. I think we're a long way from that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just to add to that, my view on the role of QA or tester, I think this is the last thing we should worry about. AI replacing. Again, my personal opinion, what we should be worrying about is people using AI replacing people. AI is not going to replace our role, but it will. People who are capable of using AI efficiently will probably give others who don't know about AI hard time getting the jobs. But AI itself, I don't think it's going to replace testers at all.
Richard, anything to add there?
No, I don't. I agree. I don't think it's going to replace. I think the biggest challenge though might be that as technologists, we're going to be able to do more with less. So I think there might not be as many roles. So I don't think they're going to be replaced, but I think the number of positions or people that you might need to deliver some stuff may start to reduce. If devs have Copilot, attached to them, making them more efficient, we're going to be able to ship quicker. And I think some companies don't need to ship so quickly all the time. So I think that might be the difference, that we start to see maybe a bit less roles. But I think the underlying reason why I just don't see testers as being replaced is, again, it's the work we, as an industry, we don't talk about enough. So the word risk, right? We don't use the word risk as much as we should, right? But yes, you can have AI generating these test cases, running these test cases, executing them, but there still has to be some human. Doesn't have to be a tester, but someone still has to address the risk. Has all that AI execution mitigated this risk? Yes or no? Generating the risk in the first place. So I don't see it. I agree with Naveen. I don't see it a concern right now. But I think access to knowledge, the speed that people who are efficient with AI can execute, that might be a concern in terms of upskilling yourself and making yourself as efficient of a QE tester as you can be.
Just to add to that, Richard's comment and Tom's comment around developers are being more efficient and generating more code using tools like Copilot and stuff like that. I think it's a blessing in disguise for QA or tester, because currently there's a bottleneck. The bottleneck is around testing, and more developers are creating more tests faster. That bottleneck increases, and hence the role of QA becoming even more important, I think.
That's what I was getting at. The bit before and the bit after, we need to get back to focusing on that. Tom said it earlier. We shouldn't be sitting there fixing selectors. There's little tasks that AI will be so much more efficient at us doing, but there's those underlying ones that it's not. And I think we need to, as an industry and as a role, get back to focusing on those kind of things. Automation took us very far this way, and I think we need to bring back some of these core skills that require judgment, critical thinking, conversations, information modeling and gathering. That's where I hope we shift towards.
Thanks. Thank you, everyone. I'm just going to, yes, we've gone through the first sort of 3 questions there and some additionals. We've got a lot of questions that have come in, so I've highlighted some of those, shortlisted and ready to to fire onto the screen. So we'll try and get through those in the last 15 minutes. So feel free to keep sending those in as you're watching, everybody. So there's a question here from Tom. Richard's spoken a bit about AI tool vendors and what functionality they're adding at the moment. I appreciate none of you work for AI tool vendors, but Tom's wondering, what advice would the panel give to a tool vendor considering their first AI functionality from a tester's perspective?
Don't call it AI functionality. Just build features that provide value and help people do the jobs and solve the problems they're trying to solve. Like sticking AI on it is a purely marketing thing, and you can do that, right? If people do it, it works. Like I'm not saying don't do it, but if you're going to do it, again, we need to learn from the automation movement we had. Start really explaining the value that it brings, how it's going to make me better, how it's going to make me more efficient. And under the hood, if that uses AI, so be it. Obviously tell me, because we've just mentioned the safety concerns. But really, I think it's got to be something that I would like to see tools focus more on making their current tooling better and more efficient with the use of AI, because that's a knowledge base they know, as opposed to just sticking another thing on so they can have AI. So make your current tool, which is valuable, people are using it, make it better and more efficient at what it was designed to do with some AI stuck in there, as opposed to adding bits on just to have an AI factor. I think, again, we don't want to jump on the bandwagon of just sticking AI on everything. We'll start having AI-powered conferences soon, like all these stupid things that we don't need to call them those things, because it's just a conference. We just happen to use AI under the hood. So yeah, focus on the value and problems that you're trying to solve, and be more explicit with them now. Declare exactly how it's being used and why it's being used. I think all of us on this webinar, when we first started seeing testing tools talk about AI, I think Naveen mentioned it at the start. It was like, is it really AI? Is it just 20-if statements or a switch statement? Is there actually any AI in there at all? And no one was explaining it. No one was sharing how they're using AI. All the things that promise to fix locators, they don't use AI. They store 8 or 9 locators at the start, try 8 or 9 of them and see if they get lucky. Some of them are a bit more smarter now, but in the early days, that's what all they were doing. So I think make sure it's functionality that adds value. And if it uses AI, tell us as a marketing tool and explain it to us. But, we just want tools that really help us.
Thanks. Any interviews on that one?
I think one of the difficult questions to answer is, what's the state of quality of a product, right? And a lot of these tools that we currently use, they're scattered, and some provides graphs, some provide some data and stuff. So if a tool is to come around and use AI, one of the functionality I think they should build is to answer this question. Tell a story and help answer this question, what's the state of quality for a product? So it's a difficult question to answer. There are various metrics and parameters involved and stuff like that. But if someone can attempt that, I think AI would definitely help with that.
Okay.
I think as well, for me, it's a case of, at the moment, it kind of feels that people are looking for problems for the solution rather than, coming up with a problem and finding a solution. It's a tool. You might be able to use AI. You might be better off with 20-if statements. But I think, as Richard said, really, if you found something that, a problem that, testers have and you can make their life easier, then fix that. That might be using AI, it might not. But I think it feels at the moment that people are almost shoehorning AI in where they can, rather than what are testers' problems, how can we solve them?
Okay, thank you. There's a question here from Neil. Neil asks, thanks for your question, Neil. So, not sure whether anyone can answer this, hopefully. Does Copilot use GPT 3.5 or GPT-4? Do you recommend that instead of Chat GPT? And how important is the prompt that you put in? Tom spoke a fair bit about. Tom, do you want to go with that?
Clarify. Is Copilot Microsoft Copilot or the GitHub Copilot?
I'm guessing that Neil's referring to GitHub Copilot, isn't he?
I think he's going for Microsoft Copilot.
Okay.
Copilot. Okay, so Microsoft Copilot uses 3.5 by default, but you can switch on for free. And in paid version, that's enabled by default. However, do you recommend instead of ChatGPT free version uses 3.5, but you need to pay to use the GPT model 4. However, in Microsoft Copilot, it's completely free, and you can use GPT-4. So I would recommend trying out Microsoft Copilot with GPT-4 enabled first, and if it doesn't help, then maybe pay for ChatGPT. And how important is prompt? Very important. It's like the better you ask for something, the better output you're gonna get. All LLM does behind the scene. LLM is basically 2 files. It's not, I don't know how many people are aware of it. It's just literally 2 files. One parameter, one few hundred lines of code, which kind of rely on those parameters. And when you talk about these models having 70 billion or 2 billion parameters, that's what it is. They just compress the knowledge from internet or information into these parameters in a network, basically. And it estimates, it guesses the next thing. So if you don't write what you need effectively, its guess would be equally bad or good. So very important.
Right. Okay. I'm going to flash another one up now because we've got quite a few to get through. Thank you for that. So this is a question from Roger. Hi, I'd love to hear about AI tools to use for testing, but to protect your IP. Has anyone got any insights into how your IP is protected when you're using some of these tools? We spoke a little bit about security already.
I don't have any specific tools, but my brain just goes back to the same things I've signed with your normal tools contracts. It's like, is this data staying in my own, instance of that tool in its own little space, or is it going into some sort of cloud that, can be, like if, like, for example, I'm using Appy tools, is that my own instance and I'm training my own model with my own data, or is it going into some sort of super duper Appy tools cloud at the background that's being shared? I think we just have to get better at reading the terms of these things. If you're using the generic ChatGPT and all these other things, again, it's just being careful about what you give it. You mentioned prompt writing good prompts. You've got to be careful about giving everything away in that prompt that you shouldn't be. If it's one where, like, I think the one that we're moving to, which we've all mentioned, we would love to see some sort of analytical tool that brings everything from 20 sources into one and generates a narrative for us. I think that's when it will get quite contentious to be able to have all that IP. Like if suddenly a tool knows that your build's failing, 100 times a week, do you want that kind of information out there? Do you want people to be able to read all your Jira tickets, read all your backlog? There's so many things that are going to be a problem. So I think, again, it is going to be a lot of larger teams. Will be a lot of legal stuff reading these terms, and for ourselves, just being very careful about what data we give to some of these public models that we might use. But yeah, I think it's going to be, I expect a lot of companies will start centralizing this if they don't already, because it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, with big dispersed teams of people all picking up different AI tools and pumping in data, you can imagine it would be a challenge, definitely. Yeah, okay. There's a viewpoint here which I'll just share, and I'll read out from David, who asked a question earlier. So the risk will likely be people assuming that they can replace people, deciding to scale back, getting bitten by that decision, then needing to revert that change. As quality folks will still be affected by that mistake in terms of role availability. So I think maybe David's alluding to the fact that people will get excited about the use of AI and then think that it can do potentially more than it can or replace people, and then having to reverse that decision. And there's so much like hyperbole about AI that you could sort of see that happening a little bit, can you?
Just to quickly add, Matt, that's exactly what happened with automation. So Alan Richardson gave an amazing talk where we took people's test scripts, we automated them, and they got rid of the testers, and they expected everything to just be fine. We thought we'd maintain these scripts and everything would be okay. Maintaining scripts wasn't the problem. The problem was that all those quote manual testers were following that test case. That was the minimum they were doing. So they were running that one test case, but they were doing an extra 10, 20, 50, 100 tests at the same time. The test case didn't tell you to check for something like A, but every tester did. But then we never communicated that, which is why I said earlier about our role. We're not very good at talking about what we do. So if earlier on people said, yeah, I did do that test case, but I also ran these 50 tests at the same time, then when it came to automating it, you would have had a more accurate representation of what the human did, and we don't. And I still think we're in that space now where even if we start using these tools to assist us, we're still not very good at explaining it. And I think that will be, to support what David's saying there, I think that's going to have a problem where companies will think they can get rid of it. They'll try it, it won't work. And then when they come back, maybe we're not here anymore. Maybe we've shifted into other roles or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe the industry's changed so much that people don't shift back. Yeah. Tom, any view there?
No, I think I agree. I think that for me is a worry. I think, as Richard said, the scaling back is, we can be more productive now. So do we need as many people? Surely we can cut back. That's, I think for me that is the big risk. I agree that I don't think you can ever completely replace testing. You're always going to have to do it. But my worry is that the people that run the companies perhaps thinking that now they can be more aggressive with what they've got.
Yeah. But so we've got 3 minutes left. Obviously, we spoke a lot about caution and sort of things that might happen in the future. But let's end on a sort of a positive note, talking about maybe how, just going back to some of those previous points on how it's already benefiting us, what it's doing for us now, because clearly there are loads and loads of benefits, a huge list. Do you want to just maybe fire in the top piece of value that you think some of these AI tools are offering to a tester right now? Richard, just start with you, if that's okay.
I'm not sure about value, Matt, but I would say we just be open-minded right now. Just try these things, see if they bring value to you. Be skeptical about it, but embrace the fact that there's this new wave of possibilities coming to us, and we need to start, dabbling in there and seeing which ones stick for you individually. And then I think, let's. I think the other benefit that we're seeing is it's causing us to think more about what we're doing. Think more about the questions that we're asking these, chats and these bots and stuff like that. I think that's only going to help our industry reflect more on the things that we do, the skills that we have, and start valuing ourselves a little bit more. But yeah, I think just dive in, give these things a go. Don't be so scared that you don't use it. Give it a go, see if it provides you value, and hopefully, it will. And then just keep an eye on it, because as we've all seen, it's not going away. It's only just getting started, and I think we're going to see even crazy possibilities once, beyond LLMs and stuff like that. So it's an exciting space to be in. Keep your toes in there, just so you're aware, and see where this train goes.
Nice one, cheers, Richard. So embrace it and be curious.
Yes, absolutely. Be a tester.
What a nice point to finish on. Naveen, anything from you?
No, I think Richard covered, but some of the use cases that I'm currently exploring is QA GPT is already making it more efficient, fine-tuning custom GPTs on that. Log analyzer, some of the tool that I use is called Bug Splat. So hooking that data into AI and getting it indexed and having a Q&A API on top of it, and getting the information that you need easily. And we were just talking before this started with Richard. In the gaming industry or metaverse, that's where I work in. NPCs, non-playable character, plays a huge role in terms of testing and supporting various aspects of it. AI-driven NPC is something that I'm kind of looking at exploring. And the last one is knowledge base. In any organization, there are many places where you have documentation. Maybe it's Google Docs. You got Confluence, you got something else, GitHub or things like that. How can we pull it all together and have a interface where we can just ask question and it will automatically just give us the information that we need without having to hop onto these different knowledge bases. A few more,
Thanks.
but I think we don't have time.
That's really, you can put them in the comments afterwards, and people can definitely see them. Thanks, Naveen. Anything from you, Tom?
Just echoing what the guy said, really. Embrace it, but obviously remember it's a tool. And the same way a saw is more efficient in the hands of a carpenter than it is in the hands of a toddler. So you use the tool, learn to use it. Definitely embrace it, but obviously be a tester, as Richard said, with it, and don't completely rely on it.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Really appreciate it. And the video is going to be available for everyone to watch on YouTube probably from tomorrow. Thank you very much for your comments. We're back again next month with another talk, which is about speed versus quality in testing. So hopefully we'll see you then. Thanks again.